I used to work the graveyard shift at a short-term facility for abused and neglected kids, basically when children were taken from their homes. If their safety plan didn't include a relative they could stay with, they would be housed with us. You can imagine how devastating it was most of the time. I have real-life horror stories that would keep people up for days. Eventually, I had to stop working there for my own sanity. It's one of my greatest regrets, that I was never strong enough to withstand that kind of horror so I could be a better support system for the kids that needed it most. Anyway, one night I was working alone, and by alone I mean we didn't actually have any kids there that night. Someone always had to be at the facility though, even when we didn't have any residents, just in case a call came and some group needed a bed. On nights that no one was there though, I was like a glorified maid, which I actually didn't mind. It was like 3 hours of deep cleaning and 7 hours of watching television. Now, if you're one of those people who believe in residual energies, you would probably have a hard time finding a place that contained more emotion than most short-term care facilities. The fear, terror, and sadness and anger almost every kid had just had to leave a mark in some respect. I don't know if those strong emotions could actually emit a physical entity, but what I'm about to tell you is 100% true. So take it as you will. It was the week before Thanksgiving, and like I said, there was no one else in the facility, so you can imagine my surprise when I hear what sounds like kids laughing in the halls. My first thought was, "Oh, weird. I must have left a television on in the other wing." I went to go check, but nope. I chalked it up to someone playing super loud music outside and went about cleaning some more. An hour or so later, I finished and was sitting down to watch a movie when I see a shadow on the hallway wall directly in front of me. It was the wall that led to the girls' rooms, and then in the opposite direction, it was the hall that led to the other side of the facility. Since I was the only one there, and there's no window in the hall because of safety reasons, there was absolutely no reason for a shadow to appear on that wall. But that isn't the scary part. The shadow started to get smaller, like it was running away, and I heard kids' footsteps. To this day, that is something I will never ever forget. The image of that shadow getting smaller and smaller on that wall, like someone was walking or running away. It's one of the strangest things I've ever seen, and while I wasn't scared, I was kind of jolted, if that makes any sense. I checked the entire facility just to make sure there wasn't anyone there. I looked at all the cameras inside and out, and nothing. It wasn't much longer that I ended up quitting. It was like an unbearable sadness that etched itself into my mind, and I couldn't get past it. I don't really have a better explanation for it than that though. Now I work as a graveyard shift waitress at a local diner, and I'm much, much happier. I used to work as a corrections officer. I have plenty of really creepy stuff that happened over those 5 years, but by far this is my favorite incident. I was assigned to the single man cell wing of the jail, which is basically solitary confinement for inmates who were being punished for breaking rules in the jail. So around 5 a.m., there are medical calls for all inmates that need medication to be escorted from my wing to medical in order to receive their meds. I pull out 2 guys, restrain them, and instruct them to face the wall and await the guard who will be escorting them. As the 3 of us are there, I began to hear a woman crying. I was new to that jail and didn't think anything of it, and as I'm just listening to this woman cry, I slowly start to realize a few things. There are no females in this wing, nor in any wing where men are. The female wing is down the hall, sealed tight, with about 3 doors in between the hall and the actual wing. There's only about 2 other males in the wing who are asleep aside from us 3. I look up at the inmates and notice they have this kind of smile on their face as they were watching me realize what was going on. And I asked them, "Do you guys hear that?" One of the inmates responds, "Almost every night, boss." I used to work for a very major company that I'm not going to say the name of. To put it in perspective though, when they moved into the area with their factory and plant, they took up miles of land for the main massive building, the auxiliary buildings surrounding them, and the roads paved just for their new base of operations. They employed thousands just in this area. Anyway, I needed a job at the time, and they hired me for basic security. I meant that as the actual term. There were levels of security guard here, and I was just a basic. I was basically the walking security camera that called the more proficient security guards if I saw shit. Well, I worked from 9:30 p.m. to 7:45 a.m. At various points I was sitting in a booth, and at other points I was walking around. The weekend before Thanksgiving, I remember being on shift and having the night that I quit and found a new job because of. So I'm patrolling around the perimeter of one of the main buildings. There's night shift workers inside, and this plant operates 24/7. I hear them working away as usual. My walkie goes off though, and someone other than my main shift boss tells me to go check out behind an auxiliary building. Now I only divert, usually when my shift boss tells me to. I didn't recognize this voice, so I call back asking for them to ask, "What's up?" My actual shift boss replies this time asking me what I'm talking about, and I tell him someone said to check the auxiliary building. He said no one said that, and to stay at my patrol area. I think I'm being bamboozled, but I stay and keep patrolling. About an hour later, the same message comes back, and someone tells me that I need to go check out the field behind the auxiliary building. I make the same call back, and my boss says the same thing. Apparently, I'm the only one hearing it. Eventually, shifts change. My boss leaves 2 hours before I do, and there's a 40-minute gap between shift bosses. Sometimes if, for whatever reason, they take a while switching. During that gap, the voice comes back on my channel, telling me to go to the auxiliary building again. The auxiliary building is empty during the night and faces the woods surrounding the land. Just for reference, I ignore it and wait for my main shift manager. I call a few other guards though and ask if anyone has seen anything near the auxiliary building and tell them what I've been hearing. I ignore it and wait for my main shift manager. I call a few other guards though and ask if anyone has seen anything near the aux building and tell them what I've been hearing. They all deny hearing anything. One agrees to go look since they're nearby though, much closer than me. Eventually he says nothing is up near the building. All clear. I finish my shift and start driving away from the plant. I pass by the aux building on the way out, and just out of curiosity, glance over to it. There's like 15 people standing next to the tree line of the woods, behind the aux building, all wearing red from head to toe. I was contracted and at will, and I told my boss I couldn't continue. I was too spooked. Turned out the same guard who checked for me quit shortly after that. I was working as a graveyard waitress and served a strange fellow a few times. I try not to judge people, and at the time, I was more open with people. I talked a lot. The man had some mannerisms like grimacing and grinding his teeth suddenly, and he would make sort of a creepy face. I tried to ignore it when he did this, because I thought he might have a medical problem. He told me that he likes to dress like a woman sometimes, and that he had a woman alter ego. That is not strange at all. Living where I do, there are lots of different types of people. Eventually she came in and I met her, the alter ego. She actually seemed more relaxed, and I do not remember her making any kind of grimace or grinding, though she may have. We talked about makeup routines and she drank tea. It was just fine. The last time I saw the man, he terrified me. He came in as himself, but was grimacing and grinding a lot, making many scary faces. He was talking about how he was leaving town, and he kept gripping the counter as hard as he could. So much he was shaking the counter. It looked like he was holding back some kind of violent action. I don't know what was wrong with him, but I got the scariest vibe that I ever got off of someone. I still wonder what was going through his head as he is grimacing at me, grinding his teeth, making a scary face, and holding the counter so strongly that the whole thing is shaking.